So if you are on the shell, right, and then you've probably done this or seen this before or something. If 10 equals 10, then echo 10 is 10, right? But you might also see something like if dash f gcc, then I don't know, gcc exists, right? So what's up with this? We have this weird dash f here, and then I guess it checks for a file, and I guess it exists if it is true. So what's up with dash f? This doesn't make any sense. Well, the thing is, if we if we do something like this, it's not gonna work. And it's actually not just a syntax problem. If we look at the dash bin directory where we store all our executables, we can actually see we have an executable called the left bracket, and we can actually call it dash bin left bracket, and it complains about missing that. And it's a binary. It's actually, we can actually pull up the man page for it, and it's just kind of an overload of test. So if we pull up test here, we can now see all the flags. So like dash z for null, or not a null, a zero length string, dash f for file, and we now have all the flags that it has. So yeah, when you are using the brackets, you are actually using test, which in most shells, I think in most modern shells, it's actually a built-in function, so you don't need to worry that much about calling an external program. But yeah, just make sure that you know that, and you don't actually need to use that in your if every time, because what the if is doing without this, so when you do an if statement like this, it's like it's like this in C, right, where it just captures the return value of something and checks if it is 0, where in Unix, I guess 0 means true, and if it is non-zero, it's gonna evaluate to false. So when doing something like, I don't know, let's make an email, and then let's do an if. I don't know, maybe I've done something like this. So if echo the mail, grab the at, I guess, not to, then email, echo email exists, fi. You can do something like this, right? And it's probably better if you are actually doing some regular expression, but yeah, you can do something like this, but you don't actually need to have the brackets here, because grep itself is already going to return a value. So if it finds something, it's gonna return 0, and if it doesn't find something, it just returns 1. So you don't actually need that in this case. So you can do something like this. And also, well, in this case, you don't also want the you don't want the grep thing to be printed. So it would actually be faster to use grep q, because when we use the bracket here, it's still gonna print, right? It's just that we are going to test the output of grep with test, but we are actually doing like the printf or the puts in the actual grep executable, which is kind of inefficient because printing is very slow usually. So if you're using q here instead, you are probably avoiding the printf or whatever grep does to print the characters. And so here we just check if grep actually finds something without actually printing, which would be kind of useless since we don't really want that. So yeah, and same case goes with redirecting to dev null. You shouldn't really do that because, well, grep doesn't actually, it isn't actually aware of the redirect to dev null because that's done by the shell, right? So grep actually is going to keep printing the things, but it's just not gonna show unless there's something, I don't know. But just use grep q.